Hello
Hello,
there, this is AnYPony.
See,
Wait, what was that? What the? Canned cream? What are you doing here?
ANY, my longtime nemesis. Nemesi. Rival.
Get off my channel, I'm trying to do a video.
No, you're in my channel, and I'm trying to do a video. I distinctly remember watching Do Princesses Dream of Magic Sheep and thinking to myself, hey, that's some great material here. So I went to sit by my Luna Shrine for inspiration, and I think I fell asleep.
Oh yeah, I recall watching that episode as well. I was about to write my own review of it, so I got my cup of coffee and... Wait, oh no, I just realized. I picked the decaf by accident. There is no way I could write a script without lots of caffeine. So, I guess I must have fallen asleep as well.
Wait, so does that mean...
Yep. We are sharing a dream.
Well, guess we know who we can thank for that idea.
I get ya. Oh, and while we are talking about the writers, who the heck are Jason Thiessen and Jim Miller? Well, okay, they are the supervising director and his co-director, but when did directors become story writers?
I'm sure it happens all the time. I mean, George Lucas got free reign of the Star Wars prequels and... but that aside, do you think it's a bad thing that those two wrote the stories for 3 out of 4 episodes since Slice of Life?
Yes. No. I mean, all 3 have been okay, I guess.
Having a bit of a stammer there?
What? No. Okay, I guess, is the official verdict of unspecificalness and implying that something has good and bad stuff that makes it hard to evaluate. It's a bit like rating something meh, only that meh represents an emotional flatline while okay, I guess, hints towards strong points on the opposite end of the scale, keeping you torn inside with the subtle need to tend towards the more positive view.
So, in other words, the best way to describe the episode would be...
Even in my dreams, the list haunts me. Number 5. Neigh! Talking about haunting. People have complained about Spike being not written well, so often it became more common than the CMC looking at their own butts. However, this episode hit a new low for Spike as a character, if you ask me, when even the entire remaining cast just rolls their eyes in annoyance of his antics and replies in unison, "We know." As a writer, you might want to reconsider the scene you just wrote. Let Spike sing the Cloudsdale anthem 3 more times, but please don't let him do this painfully awkward dialogue again.
There is a general rule of writing that says that every line of dialogue should do something to reveal plot or advance the character. Pretty much nothing Spike does or says for this episode fulfills either requirement. He complains he wasn't a part of Luna's dreams, but that never means anything. He'll say he'll watch over the others as they sleep, but he never needs to. And ends up falling asleep himself anyway. Not that he does much more to help than any other pony we saw in the dream. But, speaking of those other ponies, that does bring us to...
Number 5.
Yay!
The background ponies. If ever there was a better time since Slice of Life to throw in a little goofy fun, this one big dream sequence was it. And the staff took that opportunity and ran with it. Between Giga Derpy, Superhero Filthy Rich, and some very revealing information about Big Macintosh, I was in love with this entire segment.
Now that you mention it, this whole season has been super focused on giving minor characters a bit more spotlight. Besides the obvious cases of the heroic quartet from the season opener.
You mean the cutie map?
Ugh, yes, that one. And also, of course, the 100th episode as well as Slice of Life 2.0, also known as Amending Fences, minor characters got more speaking parts and more recognizable moments throughout the season. And it sure didn't stop with Do Princesses Dream of Magic Sheep. We even got yet another ambiguous moment with Lyra and Bongbong. Even so, I am convinced they should have fallen over in this pose.
It is a dream, you know.
Shush. Number 4. Something that gets a bit tricky with 2 authors for the story itself and an additional episode writer is finding the right person to blame for really weirdly written wording.
I usually go with blaming AnY.
Don't think I can't handle your blame. But seriously, some lines have been plain bad. What was up with, "I will do anything to end this, including accepting your help"? What a backhanded comment.
Well, at least that line only gets said once, unlike the one about the Tantabus escaping into the real world, which gets repeated over and over and over and over and over and...
We get it.
Right, sorry. Look, MLP, I know you're just trying to keep the tension up, but it's only a 21-minute episode. What, did you think we forget? Maybe it's just me, but I find that kind of repeating dialogue to not only be distracting, but also entirely unnecessary. I mean, we're in the middle of the battle. We can see what the stakes are. We get it! Gah! Oh, I need something to calm me down. And that can only be one thing.
Number 4.
Yay!
Princess Luna! Number 3. Better now?
Yeah, Luna makes everything better. You know, for arch enemies, aren't we being a little too nice to each other?
Good point. Guess this shared dream is actually a shared nightmare or something. And I still hate you for ripping off my bespectacled smartass Earth Pony in a West style.
You're just angry that I do it better.
You're both hilarious.
Anyway, number 3 is execution of the story arc itself. For as much praise as I would give to this episode for being such a fun and creative concept, I do take issue with how telegraphed the resolution is. Of course, we all know that Luna and the main 6 are going to win in the end, but the fun comes from seeing how we get to that point. The moment Luna started spouting off about how she had to do this alone and couldn't ask the girls to do more than they already had, you know exactly how the story is going to play out. While it doesn't really ruin it, it does take away from some of the enjoyment.
And all this time, while she's so concerned not to put her own burden on anybody else, she leaves the main 6 back in their respective nightmares to handle the horrors now present there alone. I was kind of waiting for that aspect to play a role later on, but in a similar fashion to the already mentioned issues with the dialogue as well as Spike's actions, that development did not serve a real purpose to further the story neither. Funny thing, considering that Scott can actually include tricky elements in his stories in a meaningful manner. Elements that otherwise get easily screwed up. Number 3.
Yay!
All that fan referencing. And before you throw off your saddles and start neighing in the comments about nearly extinct bicolor bears Hasbro is feeding to us, no. Princess Big Mac, Flutterbed, Giant Derpy, the resurrection of the Golden Oaks Library, as well as Scootaloo's Wings have not been fan pandering, since none of them distracted from the story but rather served a purpose within the narrative to move the plot along. So for once, you can enjoy your fangasms without anybody having a valid reason to complain about it.
While not entirely perfect, I mean, would Rainbow Dash and Applejack really pick their Power Pony personas as their go-to weapons of choice? I mean, AJ I suppose you could make a case for, but Rainbow Dash? Come on, what about the Wonderbolts? Or the Shadow Bolts? Or Daring Do? But, alright, sure, whatever. It's really hard to call this too much of a bad thing when it's such a small part of the episode and, like everything listed before, it does serve a purpose. Credit really does need to go to Scott for taking this opportunity to call back to some of MLP's earlier episodes as well as fan-adored characters, and doing so in a way that actually made sense to the plot.
As much as I want to congratulate Scott for doing an awesome job in this regard, there is another issue he kind of should have handled differently in my opinion. Number 2.
The dream sequences. While done to a varying degree of quality, there is a single one that stands out above the rest for being so stereotyped it's almost sinful. And that award can only go to Rainbow Dash. When I first started watching MLP, I naturally gravitated towards Fluttershy as my favorite of the main 6. But as the series went on, MLP began to uncover more and more about Rainbow Dash's personality, turning her from a generic tomboy into this deeply complex character with relatable fears and insecurities. We began to see what was the real Rainbow Dash and what was just a cover. And it was this characterization that made her my new favorite. So here we have a chance to delve into the innermost psyche of Rainbow Dash, to see what her greatest dreams and deepest fears are, and what do we get? Changeling fighting and creepy happy dreamland. Wow. Way to go, Scott. Oh, don't get too deep now. Might get my shoes wet.
Over the seasons we learned that Dashi is actually one of the most sensible and emotional ponies. Her greatest fear is being alone. She has a diabetes-inducing relationship with Tank, and we have seen her before being completely fine around cute and girly stuff. Even when she has to play a mannequin for Rarity, she is not complaining about the outfit, but about being bored and that the dress is unpractical. While I could see her dream about cool action since she honestly likes that kind of stuff as well, her quote-unquote nightmare is simple BS. For the purpose of a joke that, I will be honest, made me chuckle, her character got outright flanderized here. However, Scott also managed to create some really amazing insights, namely, number 2,
Yay!
the dream sequences, specifically Fluttershy's and Pinkie Pie's. The latter one was an amazing visualization of Pinkie Pie's short attention span, always in motion personality and eye for detail. All her musical numbers are already pretty colorful and surreal to begin with. Trying to top these in a dream would have been futile. The way Scott chooses, however, gives a better insight in Pinkie's mind than any less subtle method could ever have.
And then we have Fluttershy, whose dream does reveal some rather telling information about her character. I may have said that jokingly about Big Mac, but here I mean it in a much more serious sense. After all, Fluttershy is a pony that dedicated her life to caring for others, despite having a meek and reserved personality of her own. It's not much of a stretch to see her wanting that same level of care and affection for herself. While maybe not as visually interesting as Pinkie's, it does an equally good job capturing the essence of the character. And with 4 nays and 4 yays out of the way, we can now only go to...
Number 1, meh.
The dream sequences.
Twilight dreams of books? Who would have guessed?
Rarity dreams of dresses? What insanity is this?
And AJ dreams about... seriously? Apples?
No, AJ dreams about something that actually already happened. And to think, people accuse Applejack of being boring.
Number 1.
The pacing. Oh, sweet moonbutt above the awkward, terrible, mismatched pacing. MLP has always had trouble giving proper time and transition into their third acts, but this one hits you so fast it should come with a whiplash warning.
But it has not only been the ending. Man, the story wrapped up faster than Rarity waking up next to Prince Blueblood.
Oh my.
But it also started somehow awkwardly. While the pre-intro scene actually develops a bit of brilliance once you know where the story is going, the scene with the main 6 grooming their pets while beating around the elephant-shaped bush in the room seems to have issues getting started. Only to then jumpstart the plot with Luna literally appearing all of a sudden, even to a degree where Fluttershy has to comment on it. Seriously, didn't we already talk about the issue that writers should probably revise their work when they reach the point where they need their own characters to point out the strangeness of what they just wrote? Pointing out your own flaws doesn't make them okay.
The annoying thing is, the joke could have worked if it had just been done a little differently. Was the joke that Luna already knew the main 6 dreamed of the Tanibus? Then have her appear just before Spike can send the letter. Is it that she comes over right away after reading it? Then at least have a brief pause before she bursts into the room. Either way, this joke could have worked, but the episode tries to play it both ways and, yeah, now I'm just confused. But this is only nitpicking a single aspect of the pacing. What really makes this deserve the #1 spot is how bloated the middle section is compared to the start and end. Yes, it's a very entertaining second act with all kinds of wonderful jokes and references and visuals, but ask any writer what the most important parts of the story are and they will tell you it's the beginning and the ending. And here, both are brushed aside far too quickly, and an otherwise great episode suffers for it.
And suffering is truly the right term here. The episode has great potential for all the yays we already mentioned and the ones still left to come. But it gets held back by that mixture of maybe not bad but at least clunky and confusing dialogue, story elements that go nowhere, and last but not least, this bumpy start combined with that blink at the wrong moment and you missed it ending. I want a great climax for this episode. It deserves it. But we get catapulted away from this tense and emotional situation in which Luna sobs in desperation to a happy ending within one emotional line by Twilight and a scaling effect. But enough ranting for today. How about we move on to the highlight of this episode? #1.
The overall concept of the story. Okay, I know we just spent however many minutes just tearing this episode apart, but that's only because we hurt the ones we love. And man, there is a lot to love about this episode. We haven't had a proper Luna story since season 2, and for a fan favorite character, that's just too long. And we finally get that episode, and it's one that not only utilizes her previously introduced powers, not only lets us see into the very souls of the main cast, and not only finds a way to interject the perfect balance of humor and actual creepy imagery, but we have Luna directly facing and overcoming her single greatest obstacle. Not Nightmare Moon, but herself. Luna has to finally learn how to forgive herself for what she's done. And this idea is presented beautifully as this massive and ever-growing obstacle in the story. It's so good! Oh, AnY, start saying words before my gushing makes me leak onto the floor.
As if me talking about Best Princess would be any better. Anyways, the concept that Luna actually created that magical entity as a punishment for herself is absolutely fascinating. She is so tormented by her own guilt and trusts herself so little that the only option she can see how to deal with her past is to expose herself to her own worst nightmare for all time. That nightmare being reliving her own crimes. I admit that I am a sucker for the AI gone rogue and threatens to overthrow its master trope. What it basically is, just in a fantasy setting. Like the robot in The Incredibles, the machines in The Matrix, and Stargate's replicants before it, the Tenebus grew stronger over time and eventually, in its case literally, breaks out of its master's boundaries. But we only learn later on that the Tenebus is actually Luna's own creation, and the moment we learn it, so much about her actions up to that point becomes clear, and we get to enjoy that sweet, cruel irony. Oh, that irony. She created the Tenebus to prevent herself from ever hurting her little ponies again, only to doom them all. How goes the saying? The portal to hell is opened with the incantations of good intentions.
You have to wonder how much of that guilt plays into all the actions she's done since returning. Trying to reconnect with her subjects, offering to defeat Sombra, protect the Crystal Empire on her own, and helping so many ponies get over their fears in their dreams. It sheds a lot of things in a new light. But, hopefully, because of all this, Luna can now learn and grow, and what happened in this episode will affect and change her going forward. There is a great chance for character improvement here, and it would be a shame for MLP not to run with it. Not that Luna needs much improvement, she's pretty much already best pony. Some might disagree, but they'll learn. They'll all learn, or they'll be swept away in the glorious uprising! Wait, was that out loud?
All hail the new Lunar Republic! Sorry, what I meant to say was, nope, I am sure nobody caught it. How about we move on to the final thoughts?
Yeah, great idea.
Okay then. As I said before, Do Princesses Dream of Magic Sheep is an episode I wish I could simply love for all its greatness. But the aspects holding it back are just too dominant to be ignored. The way the episode turned out, it is still an extremely interesting one, visually as well as story-wise, and it is worth a rewatch every now and then. Its flaws in narrative, dialogue, and sometimes even characters, however, keep it from being one of the best. And the episode as a whole is, as much as it pains me to say, okay, I guess.
When it comes to Luna episodes, I'd still call Luna Eclipse the overall tighter package. But that is not to discredit the work done here. Jason Thiessen and Jim Miller know how to build an interesting concept, and Scott Sonnenborn is one of the few people who know how to write for Fluttershy and Pinkie. These attributes should not be ignored, but I do agree that there were just a few too many glaring problems that hold this episode back from being truly great. It's still a fun watch, sure, and I'm bound to give it a few more viewings down the line, but overall, I think you have the right of it. Do Princess's Dream of Magic Sheep was okay, I guess. So, AnY, I think this just about wraps things up. Feels like we've been trapped in this dream world for a long time now, and frankly, I've seen your other collabs. I am deeply concerned I'm about to wake up in your bed without my clothes on.
Well, it's not like you would be my first arch enemy going down that path. But wow, this has been a long one, and I wouldn't wish the task of editing it even on somebody I loathe as much as you. You sure you're okay with that?
Yeah, I'll survive. Thanks for the concern, arch enemy. I guess this is just karma paying me back for that half-hour episode edit that I dumped on Sweetie Bloom a while back.
Yeah, I see. Karma? Wait, what? What do you mean payback for dumping editing on other people? Is this a real thing?
Well, yeah, didn't you know? What goes around comes around, man.
But season 5, my spectaculum coloratio. If all that comes around again in the end.
Well then. I'm Can Cream. That was the AnYPony, and this has been a total nightmare. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna get out of AnY's karmic blast zone. Stay buddy, my friends!